The narcissist brain isn't broken. It's just running with a different operating system. So how do we work with it? Before we jump in, remember to comment, give some thumbs up, subscribe, do some subscribing, and turn on the bell notification even. Then you'll get all the updates when new videos come out and you can watch them and see if you're interested and make some comments. Okay, so today I'm going a slightly different direction than we've been. And this is, I'm going to give some practical tips that I found have been working for me, but also some practical tips that have worked for the people that I'm in relationship with, for them to institute towards me. So this is gonna be all practical stuff for the narcissist and the people in relationship with narcissists. Just some ways that I found that worked. You can try them, see how it works for you. Okay, so what we're doing is we're leveraging self-awareness and other awareness, for the other people, for intentional and using intentional practices for growth and for satisfaction of life. So first, I'm going to talk to you guys, the narcissists who are like me. Here's a couple practical tips that you can start implementing and see how it improves your relationships and your satisfaction of life as a result. So number one is some sort of mindfulness practice. Now, I'm not trying to be like all, that's like popular, gotta have your mindfulness, meditations, all that stuff. And I don't mean to say that like it's not useful, because it's really valuable in a lot of arenas. But this is one in particular for the narcissist, because if you're anything like me, all of the your trained narcissistic responses or lack of response, or jumping into survival mode to like figure out what to say so that you get a good response from the person, all that stuff, it happens so quick in the brain. It's like a reflex. It's like a reflexive response. You're already doing it, and you're like, half the time I find myself in the middle of blah 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 blah. Oh yeah, I'm doing that thing. So what I found is the more space I can take outside of those interactions to really not like spend all this time like must meditate on becoming empathic, because I don't think that's really going to work. I mean, if it works for you, great. But what I find is just taking that time to slow the brain down, meditate, or some breathing exercises. For me, a big one is walking in nature. Nature's always been a big place where I can feel at ease and can be myself and can breathe, walking in or being in nature by myself. So just upping those things, whatever of that kind of, general category of stuff works for you, increasing that actually starts to slow some of those reflexive responses down. And what I found personally is that I can start catching them earlier and earlier, sometimes even before the words start flying out of my mouth. Oh, this is one of those times. Okay. Hey, I hear you. I can tell that's a big emotional experience for you. And I want you to know I'm here to listen. I may not give you the empathic response that you might be expecting, but just know that I care and I can listen, or something. Also, sometimes I catch myself in the middle. Still, that the more mindfulness I find myself practicing and implementing on a regular basis, daily, ideally, the faster I'm catching those things before it just happens reflexively. Not perfect, but improving. And that's what we're looking for. We're not looking for perfection. We're looking for improvement. All right. Number two, you can do some journaling, and journaling about interactions that you've had and considering the other person's experience or the other person's feelings. So I don't mean doing this in the middle of a response like, hey, grab my journal. No, I mean, you have a big interaction for whatever reason. You have big experience from it. The other person expresses a big experience. Something's happening. Later, it can be valuable to just take a few minutes to sit down and just kind of get the thoughts out of your head. I do this on my computer, and I don't try to do anything with it other than just, here's what I'm thinking, blah, 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 blah. Maybe they this and then that. But with just a little bit of a focus on considering the other person, putting yourself in the other person's shoes. I know it's not easy. It doesn't come natural, but we can do that. And also, with the awareness that, like the story, I had a friend who was really having a hard time with their boss at work, and they were, kind of dumping that or expressing that to me. And that was one of those times that in the middle, all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, this is one of those things where I'm like trying to fake it. I'm trying to perform so that they feel like they're being heard, or it goes okay so the interaction can be done. And then realized, wait, this is what's happening. Then tried to express, and it sort of worked, sort of didn't. But then later, I took a few minutes and just wrote about like, hey, yeah, well, what if I was having a real hard time with my boss at work and being really frustrated about it? How would I feel? I'd feel frustrated or, whatever. It was no profound like insights like, oh my gosh, empathy, burst open. But every one of these small things you can put in place on as regular of a basis as possible helps for the next time. So it started to change how I approach conversations. And now I can start to catch myself earlier and earlier. So, like the mindfulness, journaling is a little more focused towards really practicing, when it's safe, when you're by yourself, no one around, no one's ever going to read the things I write. I'm not going to share them with anybody. But so that, have that openness and that freedom to just kind of let whatever flows, even if I'm like, they're a jerk, because I wouldn't have held it, dealt with it this way or whatever the thoughts are, just getting them out and exercising that muscle that we don't have much exercise in as narcissists can be super helpful in just, having a better life. All right. So those are the ones I wanted to point at for the narcissist. Now let's get into some practical tips for the person on the other side, the relationship with the narcissist, whether it's your partner, your family member, coworker, whatever the case may be. So these are ones that I came up with that I can imagine will help me. And I've told some of these to some of the people close to my life, and it does help. It really does. So number one is remembering that one of the set points of the narcissist brain is the question of what's in it for me. Now that can sound terrible, oh, so self-centered and stuff, but that's just the reality of how the narcissist brain works. It's not necessarily a bad thing or a good thing. It just is so. So if you keep that in mind or have that in mind and understand that when you're talking about something, if you frame it in not like what's in it for you only, but a mutual beneficial kind of thing. So rather than saying like, I need more support from you, in these situations, you could say something like, when you listen to me, when you just listen to these, what I'm expressing to you emotionally, and not even necessarily say something back, but just be present and listen, it really strengthens the relationship. And I feel closer to you. And, I imagine that you have a better relationship with me because you're not trying to perform or something like that. Just framing it in a mutual beneficial way. So like what's in it for the narcissist, but also what's in it for you. That way they can frame it, they can contextualize it in a way that works for their brain and then be relevant or present to you. Number two is understanding that from the narcissist perspective, a lot of the communication and interactions that other people have with each other, normies have with normies, is like there's a lot of unspoken sort of expectations or understandings that get passed back and forth that just don't happen for the narcissist. So really focusing on communicating clearly and specifically can be so valuable in interacting with the narcissist. So like, and this is also the mutual benefit kind of thing, but what I mean is like explicit statements. So, hey, I'm telling you about this trouble I had with my boss, and all I want is for you to listen to me. And so just giving a clear expectation up front can really help set the narcissist at ease and make them not have to perform. And then they can actually potentially do or have the interaction in a way that actually works for you. So, that's one. Or, this is clearly communicating those mutual benefits. It's kind of all balls together in one thing. But like another example is rather than saying like, hey, if we, throw a barbecue, it'll make everyone happy. It's that this will benefit you because you'll get to, have a, experience where you maybe have some fun with people, share your great cooking with people, and they'll love that and tell you how great you are. And it'll help me because I like hanging out with my friends and I want to be able to have them over at our house for a barbecue. And so it's going to benefit both of us. So just understand that a lot of the things that seem obvious to you, the normie, don't even cross the mind of the narcissist. So as much as you can express explicitly and clearly without having those sort of unspoken understandings will really help go a long way in making it a more satisfying relationship. And then there's like therapists and researchers, people who are trying to understand narcissists and figure out how to help them psychologically. And I think that this is sort of just really understanding that it's a brain wiring thing, and that while once you become aware, it does become a choice. But when you're in the process of not being aware, not being awake, and waking up at the beginning, a lot of the things that seem like choices, like to be, harmful to people, really aren't. And so really having the perspective that like, okay, this is a operating system that the person is stuck in, and it's not like they're just trying to be a bad person. So if you can hold that perspective that it is just another way of a brain working, kind of like how we have, a lot of understanding now about the autism spectrum and how those brains work differently. Similarly with the narcissist. So working with the narcissist operating system takes effort for both people, but the results are worth it for yourself and for your relationships and for creating a much happier, more satisfying life, which is something that we all want, narcissists or not. All right, hope that was helpful. Remember to subscribe, give some thumbs up, comments. I love interacting with you guys on the comments and ask questions, what's working for you, what's not working for you, all that kind of good stuff. All right, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.